Good morning, students. Here we start with the gross anatomy of the pleura part 3, in which we are going to discuss the number 1 very important structure, costodiaphragmatic recess. Now this costodiaphragmatic recess is also known as phrenico-costal sinus. So we are going to discuss this very important costodiaphragmatic recess. Then we are going to discuss the nerve supply, the entire nerve supply of the pleura, and then we are going to discuss the blood supply of the pleura, and in the last we are going to discuss the applied anatomy of the pleura. So gradually each and every points we are going to discuss. So first we are going to discuss the costodiaphragmatic recess or phrenico-costal sinus. Basically it is a cleft-like potential space which is present beneath the lower limit of the pleura and the lower border of the lung. Once again, I'll discuss this definition. It is a cleft-like potential space which is present beneath the lower limit of the pleura and the lower border of the lung. So therefore, here, in order to understand, we are simply going to draw this line diagram over here. We will draw the lower border of the lung. This is the lower border of the lung, and similarly, we are going to draw the lower border of the pleura. So just beneath, we are going to draw the lower border of the pleura. Now always remember, the space which is present where my hand is there, this is known as the costodiaphragmatic space. So the costodiaphragmatic space, or it is also known as phrenico-costal sinus, between, now over here, we are going to mark, this is the lower border of lung, and over here we are going to mark the lower limit of pleura. So lower border of lung and lower limit of pleura, and this is the space. Now what is more important are 3 points which we are going to mark gradually. The lower limit of pleura over here, we are going to have 3 points. First we are going to have this as point number 1, over here as point number 2, over here as point number 3. And what are these points? So before we elaborate these points, let me first mark here, if supposing I mark this structure as xiphisternum, that will be anterior. Posteriorly, if I mark 2 structures, these are the 2 structures, these are the spines. So let me mark this as spine of T12, and here this will be spine of T10. So we are getting a gradual idea about how this space is located. Very simple. Between the lower border of the lung and the lower limit of the pleura, cleft-like potential space, and anteriorly we have marked as xiphisternum, and at this level we have marked as the spines of T10 till T12. The 3 points which are often asked in MCQs, so many MCQs are there on these 3 points, and so many MCQs are there even on these 3 points of the lower border of the lung. The 3 points on the lower limit of pleura and the 3 points on the lower border of the lung. And all these 3 points are frequently asked in so many repeat MCQs. So what are those 3 points? The lower limit of pleura, as we have written over here, the lower limit of pleura will cross the 8th costal cartilage or the 8th rib. So here simply you denote it by 8 in the mid-clavicular line or mid-clavicular region. Then the same lower limit of the pleura will cross 10th rib, it will cross the 10th rib across the mid-axillary line, across the mid-axillary line. And the same lower limit of the pleura will cross the 12th rib across the scapular line. So either it is called scapular line, or as we had discussed in the gross anatomy of pleura part 1, where I had discussed that this could also be known as a point 2.5 centimeter lateral to the spine of T12, a point 2.5 centimeter lateral to the spine of T12. So therefore, this point is where posteriorly the lower limit of pleura will cross the 12th rib or is present in apposition with the 12th rib at the level of 12th rib around scapular line or 2.5 centimeter lateral to the spine of T12. So these 3 points are important, where the lower limit of the pleura will cross the 8th rib, 10th rib and the 12th rib across mid-clavicular, mid-axillary and scapular line posteriorly. These are asked in MCQ. Now coming over to here, lower border of the lung. Since lower border of lung is at upper level to lower limit of pleura, so we ascend 2 ribs up. And how do we ascend 2 ribs up? That will be, it will cross the 6th rib over here. It will cross the 6th rib at which line? Mid-clavicular line. So 6th rib it is going to cross at this line, and this line will be the mid-clavicular line. So the lower border of lung will cross 6th rib in the mid-clavicular line. Same way, the lower border of lung will cross mid-axillary line. So if I put a line over here, this line will be mid-axillary line. And at what level it will cross? 2. So if you ascend by 2 ribs from 10, it will come to 8. So the lower border of lung will cross 8th rib at the mid-axillary line. And now if you ascend by 2, the 12th rib, it will come across to the 10th rib. So the lower border of the lung will cross 10th rib across the scapular line, that is posteriorly. So here if I put a line, now this line is the scapular line, or even you can term it that it will be present at the level of 10th rib 2.5 centimeter lateral to the 10th thoracic spine. So these 6 numbers are very important as far as the lower border of lung and the lower limit of pleura are concerned. That is 6, 8, 10 and 8, 10 and 12. Respectively, they are crossing the mid-clavicular line, mid-axillary line and scapular line. So the lower borders of the lung will be present at the level of 6th rib in mid-clavicular line, at the level of 8th rib in mid-axillary line, and at the level of 10th rib in the scapular line. And similarly, the lower limit of pleura will be present at the level of the 8th rib in mid-clavicular line, at the level of the 10th rib in mid-axillary line, and at the level of the 12th rib in the scapular line. So this is costodiaphragmatic sinus. Now, 3 more line diagrams are very important in this, and those line diagrams will be, supposing if we come on this side over here, we shall draw very fast, we shall draw the manubrium sternum. So this is manubrium. Over here we are going to draw the body of sternum, and beneath it we are going to draw xiphisternum. So this will be body, this will be manubrium, this will be xiphisternum, and we are going to show very limited ribs. We are going to show this will be the second costal cartilage, then third, fourth. Over here we are going to show the fourth costal cartilage. Only important landmarks we are going to show. And over here we are going to show this as seventh costal cartilage. So here this will be the seventh costal cartilage. Now coming back to this manubrium sternum, now we show the mediastinal pleura. As we had discussed earlier, the mediastinal pleura will be having its attachment, as we had discussed in gross anatomy of the pleura part 2. It is attached to the behind or posterior surface of the body of sternum, and how those lines will pass. The lines of mediastinal pleura will pass across the sternoclavicular joint, then on right and left side they will cross the middle of sternal angle, and across the middle of sternal angle, both the sides mediastinal pleura, they will descend till the level of fourth costal cartilage. And we know that on the left side from the fourth costal cartilage it will deviate laterally till the level of sixth costal cartilage, where it will deviate more laterally. And on right hand side, this mediastinal pleura will descend till the xiphisternal joint, and then it will divert laterally behind the seventh costal cartilage. Therefore, this diversion is costodiaphragmatic line of pleural reflection. So the mediastinal pleura will be then diverted laterally across the costomediastinal line of pleural reflection. This is the right angle, and this right angle where my finger is there is known as the right costoxiphoid angle. So therefore, here we are going to simply mark this as the right costoxiphoid angle. And why we have marked this? To understand that the right lower end of the pleura is descending beneath the right costoxiphoid angle, or is present below the entire thoracic cage. This is one point anteriorly where the pleura is present beyond the thoracic cage or beyond the entire thoracic skeleton. So entirely, all the places pleura is lying within the entire thoracic skeleton. And this thoracic skeleton thoracic cage comprises of the entire sternum, the costal cartilages and the ribs. But at few places the pleura will be present beyond that thoracic skeleton, beyond that thoracic cage. So what are those few places that we have to mark? One place is the right costo-xiphoid angle, where the right pleura, the right costodiaphragmatic recess is lying beyond this thoracic cage. Then we come across over here, please come across over here, we will show, very fast we are going to show the spines, these are the spines, and gradually these are the spines which we are going to show, and straight away we are coming down to spine number 12, the spine of T12 vertebrae, and gradually we show this as the 12th rib. Over here also we are showing this as the 12th rib. So simply I am going to mark this as 12th rib and spine of T12. Now what we are going to show posteriorly will be, remember the mediastinal pleura, that also we have discussed in part 2. This mediastinal pleura is present 2.5 centimeter on either side of the spines, thoracic spines. So therefore the mediastinal pleura, as it is descending down on either side, 2.5 centimeter on either side of the spine, it will descend beyond the costovertebral angle. What is costovertebral angle? This is the costo here. This is the costovertebral angle. This is the costovertebral angle. So posteriorly beneath the 12th thoracic spine, the pleura, this pleura will descend. This pleura will descend for few millimeters beneath the 12th rib on either side of the 12th thoracic spine. Very simple, do not complicate. So therefore, as it descends beneath the 12th rib, this portion is called where the posterior side pleura or the posterior side, the costodiaphragmatic recess or the posterior side pleura will be present beyond or outside the entire thoracic skeleton, outside the entire thoracic cage. And these two, they are marked as what places? So these two are known as the right and left costovertebral angles. So please mark this, they are called the right and left costovertebral angles. These are the two places posteriorly where the pleura will descend beyond the thoracic skeleton, and anteriorly this was the place as right costo-xiphoid angle, anteriorly where the pleura is descending beyond the thoracic skeleton. So anteriorly right costo-xiphoid angle and posteriorly right and left costovertebral angle. These are also asked as MCQs. What level the pleura will descend beyond the thoracic cage? That is the right costo-xiphoid angle and the right and left costovertebral angles posteriorly. And now the last diagram we again draw. Please come on this side. Please come on this side. So we are simply going to draw very fast line diagram. These two diagrams also we had drawn. Remember apex of the lung, and these two apices of the lungs are covered by, we know, the cervical pleura. They are covered by the cervical pleura. So therefore, if I show here, they are simply covered by the cervical pleura. This also we have discussed in part 2. Now, the cervical pleura is covering the apex of the lung, and that cervical pleura will be covered by suprapleural membrane. That also we have discussed extensively in part 2. Now over here, the cervical pleura will ascend in the root of the neck. So that means these two cervical pleura is ascending in the root of the neck 3 to 4 centimeter above the level of first costal cartilage. So if this is the first costal cartilage, then this distance of cervical pleura extending into the root of the neck will be 3 to 4 centimeter above the level of first costal cartilage. And it will be at the same time, it will be, this is the sternal end of clavicle, it will be 2.5 centimeter extending, it will be this distance above the sternal end of clavicle will be around 2.5 centimeter. And remember, this also we had discussed last time. These two are also frequently asked MCQs. The cervical pleura or the apex of the lung will extend beyond the thoracic cage in the root of the neck. For how much distance above the first costal cartilage? 3 to 4 centimeter above the first costal cartilage. Or it will extend in the root of the neck for how much distance above the sternal end of clavicle? 2.5 centimeter above the sternal end of clavicle. So either it is 3 to 4 centimeter above the first costal cartilage, or it will be 2.5 centimeter above the sternal end of clavicle. These are the two places where our pleura is extending beyond the thoracic cage or beyond the thoracic skeleton. So how many places total? Total, now if you consider this both extending into the root of the neck, then this will become as place number 1. This is the first place, both right and left side, where the pleura will extend into the root of the neck above the thoracic skeleton or beyond the thoracic cage. Second place is, please come on this side, this, if you name it, this will be the second place where right and left costovertebral angle, posteriorly and inferiorly, where the pleura will descend beyond the thoracic cage, beyond the thoracic skeleton. Right and left costovertebral angle, space number 2, place number 2. And here if you name, this is place number 3, where on the anteriorly right side, the right pleura will descend at the level of right costoxiphoid angle. Not the left, because we have seen the left will descend at the level of 6 costal cartilage, and then it will be continuous with the laterally with costodiaphragmatic reflection. So these are the 3 places, please note down, where the pleura, the entire pleura will descend beyond the thoracic cage or outside the thoracic skeleton. It will go beyond the or outside the thoracic skeleton, the 3 places. Please note down, very important. Now we come to basically the right and the left pleura. Now this is also asked in 1 mark question answer or in MCQ. The right and the left pleura, they are separate, we know that. But they will come in apposition with each other. They will come in approximation with each other. Either apposition or approximation, both words are same. So they will come in apposition or approximation with each other at only 2 places. What are those 2 places? The 2 places will be, we consider this diagram. Try and understand this diagram. Those 2 places will be, number 1, anteriorly, the right and the left pleura will come in approximation with each other exactly between sternal angle, that is at the level of 2nd costal cartilage sternal angle, and the level of 4th costal cartilage. So anteriorly, behind the body of sternum, the right and the left pleura, both the margins of right and left pleura will approximate with each other from sternal angle till the 4th costal cartilage. From sternal angle till the 4th costal cartilage, the right and the left pleura, they will approximate with each other, and that is behind the body of sternum. That is 1 place. Second place will be here only. I will utilize this much space only. Here only, if I just draw at the level of T8 and T, very simple line diagram, cross section, this is T8, and over here, if I draw T9. In front, if I show that, now just in front, if I show the aorta, and here I'm going to show the aorta. Now this is the aorta in front of this T8 and T9 thoracic vertebrae. This aorta is crossed by, from the front by esophagus. So esophagus crosses the front of aorta. Very simple line diagram. At the level of T8 and T9, the descending thoracic aorta is crossed in front by esophagus, and in between esophagus and descending thoracic aorta, the right and the left pleural margins, they will come in approximation with each other. So here I am showing this right and left pleural margins, they are coming in approximation with each other, and therefore this is the second place in the body where right and left pleura will approximate with each other. Second place, where? Posteriorly. Where exactly? At the level of T8 and T9 thoracic vertebral body, where the esophagus is crossing the descending thoracic aorta, and in between esophagus and thoracic aorta, the right and the left pleural margin over here, they are approximating. So this level of approximation, this will be known as mesoesophagus. So it will be known as mesoesophagus. So this much is about costodiaphragmatic recess. Now we are going to, please come on this side. Now we are going to discuss the nerve supply. So therefore, the entire nerve supply of parietal pleura. First we'll make a flow chart. We are going to discuss nerve supply, the arterial supply, venous drainage and lymphatic drainage in the form of flow chart. Very easy and very simple to understand. So here we have this parietal pleura and here we have this pulmonary pleura. Remember, this pulmonary pleura is also called visceral pleura. So this will be either visceral pleura or it will be pulmonary pleura. Very simple. Parietal pleura. So in the parietal pleura, the nerve supply, since the parietal pleura is developed from somatopleuric layer, it is developed from somatopleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Pulmonary pleura or visceral pleura, it is developed from splanchnopluric layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Then, as it is developed from somatopleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm, the parietal pleura will be pain sensitive. Over here, the visceral pleura or pulmonary pleura, as it is developed from splanchnopluric layer of lateral plate mesoderm, it will be pain insensitive. That is, it is not sensitive to pain. These are also asked in MCQs or 1 mark question answer. Then we come to nerve supply. So therefore, this parietal pleura will be supplied by intercostal nerve. Now, remember this intercostal nerve, this was also asked in MCQ, this intercostal nerve will supply which portion of parietal pleura? It will supply the costal pleura and also it will supply the lateral part or peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura. Lateral part or peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura, intercostal nerve. Same way, over here, phrenic nerve. Now this phrenic nerve, it is represented by C4. So the phrenic nerve, root value C4, it is going to supply which portion of parietal pleura? It is going to supply mediastinal pleura and it is also going to supply the medial part or central part of diaphragmatic pleura. So either it is called the medial part or central part of diaphragmatic pleura. So these pleura, they are a part of the parietal pleura. They are supplied either by intercostal nerve or by phrenic nerve supply. Over here, pulmonary pleura nerve supply. This pulmonary pleura will be supplied by sympathetic nerves and parasympathetic nerve. That means they are supplied by autonomic nerves. Sympathetic nerve will be from the second to fifth sympathetic ganglia, and parasympathetic nerve will be from the vagus nerve. And what will sympathetic do? The sympathetic nerve will dilate the bronchi and parasympathetic will narrow the bronchi. So pulmonary pleura, the nerve supply will be autonomic nerves, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And as of the parietal pleura, the nerve supply will be the costal pleura and the peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura by intercostal nerves, and the mediastinal pleura and the central part of diaphragmatic pleura by phrenic nerve. Here we finish the nerve supply. Now coming to the arterial supply. In the arterial supply, the parietal pleura, since the parietal pleura is completely developed from somatic part of lateral plate mesoderm. Somatic is the peripheral part, the body wall. That means parietes, the other synonym is parietes. Therefore, arterial supply to parietal pleura will be from the peripheral part, from the parietes, from the body wall. That means the arterial supply, so here we go with the arterial supply. If I just write here, arterial supply of parietal pleura will be intercostal artery. Also it will be internal thoracic artery. Intercostal arteries and internal thoracic arteries. That is arterial supply of parietal pleura. What will be the venous drainage? The venous drainage of parietal pleura will be azygous vein, and also it will be drained into internal thoracic vein. So this is the venous drainage. And lymphatic drainage of parietal pleura, the lymphatic drainage of parietal pleura will be intercostal group of lymph nodes, or it will be the internal mammary group of lymph nodes, or it will be posterior mediastinal group of lymph nodes. This is where parietal pleura will drain its lymphatic drainage. Remember, these are often asked in 1 mark question answers. We come to pulmonary pleura. Now in pulmonary pleura, the arterial supply of pulmonary pleura will be, now since before we discuss the arterial supply, let me make it clear, the pulmonary pleura or visceral pleura is developed from splanchnic pleural layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Therefore, its arterial supply, venous drainage and nerve supply will be same as splanchnic, same as visceral, same as lungs. So arterial supply of pulmonary pleura will be from bronchial arteries, very easy to understand. What about venous drainage? The venous drainage will be from bronchial vein, bronchial veins. And now lymphatic drainage, very simple, it will be bronchopulmonary group of lymph nodes. It will drain into bronchopulmonary group of lymph nodes. So here we finished the nerve supply, arterial supply, venous drainage and lymphatic drainage of parietal pleura and pulmonary pleura. Now we come to the, now let me rub this, and we come to the applied anatomy, applied aspect of the pleura. In the applied aspect of the pleura, so many MCQs and so many one-liners are often asked. So it is the most important discussion of the entire pleura. So here we have finished the blood supply, nerve supply also finished. Now the last point, applied anatomy. In the applied anatomy, let me first write the heading of applied anatomy, and by flow chart we are going to understand all the points of applied anatomy. Remember, all the points are very, very important. Paracentesis thoracis. Paracentesis thoracis. Now what is paracentesis thoracis? Any fluid which is collected in the pleural cavity will be drained outside, and that procedure is called paracentesis thoracis. At what level the needle has to be passed? Now this level is very important. The needle in paracentesis thoracis has to be passed at the level of 8th intercostal space. This is the ideal space which is selected. And also it has to be passed across the mid-axillary line. And the last point, have to be very careful for the doctor who is performing this procedure for a paracentesis thoracis, where needle is passed through the 8th intercostal space through the mid-axillary line, and that should be kept at a lower level. In each intercostal space, it should be at the lower level in order to prevent the damage of the neurovascular structure which is present in the costal groove above. Then we come across to second point. Now this is first point, paracentesis thoracis. The second point, very important, it consists of various subtitles. What are the various anomalies, or what are the various applied anatomical phenomenons? They are, for example, the first, if you consider pleurisy, the word is pleurisy. What is pleurisy? Inflammation of the pleura. Now this pleurisy can be, either it can be a dry pleurisy in which there is no collection of fluid, and this dry pleurisy can be, it can cause a lot of pain during inspiration because of friction between parietal and pulmonary pleura. Or in this pleurisy there can be collection of fluid. If there is collection of the fluid in inflammatory condition of the pleurisy, inflammatory condition known as pleurisy, if there is collection of the fluid within the pleural cavity, then this fluid gets collected in the pleural cavity and it is called the pleural effusion. It will be known as pleural effusion. Similarly, now if you consider the second condition, if you just mention it as hemothorax. What is hemothorax? Collection of blood within the pleural cavity. It is called hemothorax. Next condition, pneumothorax. Collection of air within the pleural cavity is called pneumothorax. And then if you consider the hydropneumothorax, collection of fluid and air simultaneously within the pleural cavity, hydropneumothorax. And then finally, empyema. What is empyema? Empyema means collection of pus within the pleural cavity. Then we come to third important aspect of the applied anatomy. This is very important. The third important aspect is, considering that there are three regions in the body which we have discussed previously, where the pleura will ascend or descend beyond the thoracic cage. What are those three places? The right costoxiphoid angle, the right side costoxiphoid angle, then the right and left costovertebral angle, and the third place is the root of the neck. The root of the neck, where the cervical pleura will ascend above. Just we had a discussion previously. So at these three places the pleura will go beyond the thoracic skeleton. So therefore, during any surgical procedure, the surgeon has to be careful not to damage pleura. And remember, during any surgical procedure which is involving the thoracic cage, thoracic cavity or the pleura, there are every chances of the pleura to be damaged in these three places. So these three places are vital, these three places are very important for any surgeon who is operating in this area around pleura or within the thoracic cavity, because these are the three places where the pleura is going beyond the thoracic cage. That is point number 3. And then finally we are coming to the last point. Now in the last point, as we know that the pleura, parietal pleura, is supplied by intercostal nerves as well as phrenic nerve. So therefore, in nerve supply, we know that intercostal nerves will supply costal pleura and the peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura. So therefore, any irritation around the costal region, around the costal pleura or peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura, that irritation will be causing referred pain along the intercostal nerves, in which region? In the region of thoracic and abdominal cavity, or on the surface of thoracic and abdominal region. So therefore, any irritation across the costal pleura or peripheral part of diaphragmatic pleura may cause referred pain along the distribution of intercostal nerves. And what is the distribution of intercostal nerves? That also previously we have discussed. That is along the thoracic and abdominal body wall. Same way, now here, if we consider any irritation with respect to mediastinal pleura, or the central part of diaphragmatic pleura, then that irritation may be referred along phrenic nerve, and because mediastinal pleura and central part of diaphragmatic pleura is supplied by phrenic nerve, so that irritation of mediastinal pleura or central part of diaphragmatic pleura will be referred, the pain will be referred along the phrenic nerve to the tip of the shoulder. This is also asked in MCQ. Pain referred to the tip of the shoulder will be from irritation of mediastinal pleura and central part of diaphragmatic pleura along the distribution of phrenic nerve to the tip of the shoulder. So here we finish all the 4 points of the applied anatomy of the pleura. Thank you very much.